you have some really good speakers. The commissioner is always very motivating, and she will be our welcoming address. And then Evan Kramer is coming to talk about accountability, especially as it relates to English learners. And Evan will have a very vibrant presentation for you, and hopefully a little bit of time at the end for you to ask questions. Our third speaker is Adam Rollins, and Adam is very important to our program because he is one of the researchers that really crunches our data. He is the one who is scientifically determining how we set exit scores. So I think you'll enjoy what Adam can tell you about what's happening. He also did a lot of work with us on the growth matrix that we used in the ILP training. How many of you were able to come to ILP trainings? All right, that's great. I want to make sure that you know some people who are very important who are outside at the registration desk. We are blessed with having 8 regional advisors. They are in our, they work in the districts that are in the core region. They are not assigned to the core office. They are, they work in a district. So all of them are doing Title III work, and that's how they can help you in your districts if you can't reach us, or if you want to talk with someone who really has boots on the ground instead of those of us on the state team. So I'm going to start in the west part. We have Deborah Franz. Deborah is from Memphis, and yeah. So if you have anyone in that west area, Deborah's the one to help them. Allison Smith out of Crockett County. There's Allison waving over there. Allison works out of Crockett County and covers the Northwest region. We have Rachel Counts. Rachel is from Lawrence County and covers the South Central area. We have Joseph Winnery, who has been a little bit busy this week. Joseph is from Williamson County, works as the Title III director there, and serves Mid-Cumberland. We also have Sarah Ziegler, who is the newest to our team. Sarah works out of Marion County, and she serves the Southeast region. We have East Tennessee region, represented by Jennifer Younger. Jennifer works in Sevier County. And we're very happy to have Jennifer with us. And then we have Lamar Smith, and Lamar works out of Kingsport and serves the 1st Tennessee region. Did I leave anybody out? Oh yeah, Upper Cumberland. We have Ina Maxwell, who works in Cumberland County. And very proud of her. All right. We also have our state team here. We're a huge team of 3 people. We have Katie Barcy, who is the Assistant Director for English Learner and Middle Programs. And we have Joanne Runyon. Wave, Joanne. Joanne is in the Division of Special Populations, and we work across divisions to make sure the service to our children is proper. And Joanne is taking on cultural competencies this year. So I'm very happy to be working with both of these ladies. And I think some of you know me. I'm Jan Lanier. I'm the director of We have a very special welcome today. I was delighted when our commissioner accepted my invitation to come and speak. She has been a delight to work with and to work for. She has really pulled teams together at the state, which means a lot because our work is always cross-divisional, and it should be, and she's very supportive of that. We've made a lot of advances in education during her tenure there and are very proud of that. She's always there to give support, not only to me or not only to Katie, but she would support any of you. She's there for us and for the children in Tennessee. We've had some big changes. We have a Tennessee strategic plan that looks quite different, and we're very proud of it. And we also have a new ESSA plan, which we're making a few minor tweaks to right now. And that was a major undertaking, but I think we have one of the best in the nation. So I feel really good about that. It is an honor when I get to represent the state at national meetings, and I know that she feels the same way. So I would like to welcome Commissioner Candace McLean.
We'll have Williamson County Schools on here for a minute. Yeah, why don't you come up and put it up? I want to say a few words before we even start. This is my first opportunity as commissioner to actually be part of this conference. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to speak to you. And I want to say thank you for the work that you do. I've had an opportunity to speak to the federal program director several times, and the conversation that we have around improving English learners is always one that I cherish, because this is work that is very important to all of us, particularly as we have students in our state that continue to need our direct expertise, our direct support as they are learning the language, and they're also trying to create academic progress for themselves. And so our supports are extraordinarily important. Many of you I know from experiences that we've had while I was a dean at Lipscomb University. Some of you were in some of the programs, and so I always enjoy seeing you when I'm across the state. So appreciate you being here today and investing in working with our English learners. And I hope what we will share today will give you some insight into the work that we are all doing collectively to support all our students, but there's going to be some specificity around EL. So I want to start with talking about your role in our Tennessee Succeeds strategic plan. And specifically, I'm just curious, how many of you have actually read the strategic plan? If 3 of you raise your hand, I'm impressed. Okay, we have maybe more than 3. That was impressive. So the strategic plan is on our website. We actually kicked off the strategic plan in the fall of 2015. And there are direct components in it, particularly under All Means All, that are specific to English language learners. And in fall of 2015, we elevated that work in the department. We actually had, I love that Jan said, our big team of 3. We actually had 1 at the time when I came in 2015, and that was Jan. So we have expanded our team with limited resources, as we all have in education, and limited possibilities for new positions. But we've been able to rethink our work to make sure we elevate English language learner support and capacity within the department. We've also had the ability within our strategic plan to say, how do we elevate what we're doing as a state into our federal plan? So as you know, we've had a lot of changes over the last several years. I think we just need to sit back and reflect on that for just a minute. So in 2015, when we were kicking off our new strategic plan, we had just pulled out of the PARC consortium. Y'all will remember that was the assessment consortium we were in, that we had been building the test for about 3.5 years with a dozen or so other states. We've been field testing for about 3.5 years. We were ready for what we were going to do with PARC as it was aligned to our state standards at the time. In 2015, though, we were, as of basically the legislative session the year before, we had been asked to move out of the PARC consortium and to create our own test. Then the very next legislative session, we changed all of our standards. So we were building a new test based on one set of standards, and then we were asked to build another test built on the new set of standards. And so we have literally changed all sets of our standards over the last 4 years, changed our test basically twice as you build one test with one set of standards, and you have to field test to build the test on the new set of standards. At the same time, in December of 2015, we had what was a remarkable moment, one that nobody anticipated would happen that fast, when we had No Child Left Behind essentially reauthorized into the Every Student Succeeds Act, and President Obama signed that as one of his last large acts as president. Senator Alexander was a primary architect of the ESSA plan, And at that moment, not only were we changing so much in our state, we were also now changing our federal plan, which had been in place for about 12 years. So a significant shift at that time. So as I was talking to a group yesterday, they said, could we just have stability? Could we stay targeted on a set of standards, same content and assessment, same accountability plan, same federal plan? And the answer is we have to. We've had so much change that we're in a really good place. And I'm going to share a lot about where we are and why the place that we're in after some years of transition is one of the best places we've been as a state. But we have to have the stability to be able to build on that particular baseline and continue to grow and improve every year. And I know you feel that. I know I feel it. All that change has created instability, right? Now, you on the ground, you know that you have to actually know what expectations are to be able to grow students from those expectations. And so that stability matters. Will there be tweaks and changes over time? Absolutely. Do I feel like there's going to be massive overhaul? I cannot foresee the future. But what I can say is where we are is really strong. And if you can work with us to continue to support where we've been and where we are in terms of that baseline, I think we will have a good shot at keeping some stability over the next several years. So Tennessee Succeeds really was enveloped all of those pieces and all of those change components that I just shared. And Tennessee Succeeds ultimately became our federal plan. It has been noted as one of the best federal plans in the country. And I believe that's because we had well over 7,000 pieces of feedback directly from you that influenced what became that plan. So where are we as a state, and how does this plan fit into it, and then how does the work with our English language learners fit into that overall plan? Well, first, our state is showing historic success. You've probably seen some of the numbers. We have our lowest unemployment rate that we've ever had in our state. Now, you may say, I'm in a county that it's still not where it needs to be. That's true. And not every county is seeing the exact unemployment rate that we want. But I will say, as a state, collectively, we've continued to have success in bringing in new small businesses and increasing the opportunity for folks to get jobs. If you look at where we were when our economy was worse, back in 2010, we dropped dramatically, and we have had sustained about 13 months of very low unemployment across the state. We also are #1 in small business job growth, and just yesterday there was an announcement that we are a state that has been the fastest improving in terms of salaries for people in middle income jobs. And so there's a continuation of folks that are, they're better off individually and better off in their families and communities than they've ever been as a state. Second, we do believe education is a reason why. It's not the only reason why. If you watch any political ad right now, and I'm just curious, how many of you have seen a political ad in the last week? Okay. They're everywhere, right? This is that time of year. If you've seen any political ad, then you have probably heard that the reason why we are having this success in our state is because of low taxes. Right? That's kind of the message. We have low taxes in our state. And that is true. But we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the focus on education and the focus on the workforce that has actually created the low unemployment and have created more of an attractive place for people to bring jobs. Those two things work hand in hand, and if we'd only done one without the other, we would not have seen the growth that we've had. We do believe education in our state has continued to improve because of you. The teachers in this room and the teachers across the state are the reason why this has happened. We're going to talk about policy. You can talk about that all day long. It's about people stepping up to the expectations and continuing to move forward, and that's what we've done. This is a map that we've shown several times. I'm going to start getting t-shirts with this map on it, but let me share exactly what this means. This was a visual of a study that came out from Stanford University in December. We shared it probably the first 4 months of the year because it tells an interesting story. This is a representation of 11,000 school districts in the country. and they looked at what happened in terms of academic growth for grades 3 through 8 in math and English language arts between 2009 and the end of 2015. Now let me share the key. If you see districts that are represented in white, then that means they got expected growth. If you see green, they got higher than expected growth. If you see purple, they had lower than expected growth. The darker the purple, the worse. The darker the green, the better. So this is a growth map. It's about how much did we grow essentially over the last decade. And we're going to get excited because you look at Tennessee's growing. And in fact, you see Tennessee somewhat stand out from what the researcher called a sea of purple. Right? There is a green oasis, a green rectangle, and a sea of purple. We actually had Sean Reardon, who is one of the researchers at Stanford, come and speak to our superintendents just a couple weeks ago in Gallup. And what he shared with them is that you're doing something different in Tennessee. You actually are accelerating growth in ways that other states are not. But he also said the sobering commentary, two pieces that were very sobering. Number one, if you look at this visual in terms of achievement, we would be purple. While we're growing, we still don't have our kids to the level of proficiency they need to be successful, particularly in college, at about more than a third of kids. Right, about 2/3 of kids are not showing the level of proficiency for college preparation. Now, why do we know that that's actually what's happening in our state? Because only about a third are getting post-secondary degrees in our state. So we got about a third prepared and about a third actually finishing and getting degrees. So while we are growing and we are outpacing other states, the sobering fact number one is that we're not where we need to be in achievement. The sobering fact number two, as he commented on in looking at 11,000 school districts across the country, where you have a school district that is still segregated, with schools that are highly segregated, you see worse and worse growth and achievement. So where we aren't integrating kids of different diversity levels, different economic levels, we don't see the growth that you would hope across these 11,000 school districts. So I share those two sobering facts that this is a great story. We're growing faster. We also had John Papay, who is a researcher from Brown University. He did research on Tennessee over the last few years and other states, and he said your teachers in Tennessee are growing faster in their first 5 to 6 years of teaching than any other teacher across the country. You're growing faster in terms of your content knowledge, your teaching expertise. He said, obviously, some policy perspectives and things you're doing around professional learning are better in your state than we see in other states. So that's supporting what we even see from this study. We also know over the last several years, we've closed this gap between NAEP and TN Ready, or TCAP as it was called. We still have TCAP as the large umbrella, but TN Ready as the new test that we have in our state. And I hope you can see this map because it's somewhat interesting if you think about all the bars. Right? Don't just focus on now it looks like you got a lot of change between proficiency levels on those dark bars. So what the 2007 bars represent is the dark bar, the dark blue bar, are what we look like on TCAP proficiency for math and reading. And you can see 91% of our kids were proficient in math in 2007, and 91% of our kids were proficient in reading. Was that accurate? No. The governor would say, well, at that exact same year, 70% of our kids were requiring remediation when they went to college, so that could not have been accurate. You can't have 91% proficient and then 70+% needing remediation when they go to college. Those two things just don't compute. So this was the year we got the F. We're essentially not telling our parents and our kids the truth about where were they really in their trajectory toward a college environment. At the same year, we also see NAEP. Well, NAEP was telling a different story. It was showing that we more had between 25 and 28% of our kids proficient when we would take the NAEP. By the way, ACT in 2007 told the same story. We've had consistently about 19% of kids proficient across all 4 ACT benchmarks since about 2007. Now, the interesting part of that is we've had more and more kids take the ACT since 2007. But in 2007, it was a more selective group, and we still only had about 19% of kids proficient across all the benchmarks. So all of our national benchmarks were telling our state a different story. So why did we do all of this work on standard changes, assessment changes that may have been a little even harder than we originally thought? Why did we do all of that work? Well, it was to say, let's have an assessment aligned to better standards that actually give our kids better information year by year on their pathway toward readiness for college. And so you see in 2007 a different story. Again, if you look at the dark bars, those are now showing TN Ready from 2017. And you can see a story that is more similar to what you see on NAEP, which is in the light blue bar. They're more similar in terms of rigor and outcomes. TN Ready even slightly higher in all of those. On NAEP, there is another story here though. What do the NAEP bars look like, which are all in light blue across the board, compared to 2007 and 2017? Shout it out. Similar, but which one's higher? 2017, so across the board, we've improved between 2007 and 2017 on NAEP. During this time period that's been slightly traumatic with all the changes that we have gone through, all the things you had to align to, all the things that we know were important to make sure we had the right expectations for students. So during this time period, we've had change, but even on NAEP, we've continued to improve. So quickly, what does that mean? Well, first, it means we're finally, for the first time, not rated an F. Okay, let's give ourselves a hand for that. You can see this chart. This is put out by Education Next, which is at Harvard University. And we were an F in 2009. We were a B- in 2015. We're finally doing an A in 2017. This is about the proficiency level of our standards. It's how high are your standards and what's the reality of what you're telling people based on your assessment. And it takes those into account. We grew the most between 2009 and 2017 in terms of that change. You can see Georgia was behind us with their improvements. They're still not to an A, but they've also made dramatic improvements in that time period. We believe our policy foundation has made this possible. We have strong policies that are around high standards, high expectations, aligned assessment around those expectations, and certainly making sure that we reinforce that foundation through the work that we're doing. But I would build on this that the policy only is the start. It's about when we align as people inside our classrooms, inside our schools, and inside our districts. And we're so proud that the people in Tennessee, I think, are different than the people in other states. You have been the people who have aligned to these policies, have owned them, even though some of them have been challenging. In challenging times, you've given that feedback, you've helped us continue to make improvements, and you've been the ones that have helped us grow.
Make it focus.
And I don't think we should ever lose sight of that. The policy is important. It keeps us all on that foundation, but it's about people doing this work every single day and the strength that we've got in our room. Tennessee Succeeds has always been about these foundational priorities. I'm going to speak a lot to you today about all means all in the next 10 minutes, but I want to make sure you see them all together. These priorities are what we've built the work on for the past 4 years. It's what Tennessee Succeeds is about. Our data points to the reasons why these are important. Standards, assessment, accountability, those are foundational. All these others are where you actually make the growth with our kids every day. We've made progress toward our goals. Briefly, we've made progress on number 1. We are now in the top half in science, top half of states. So we have a goal of being in the top 25. We're solidly in the 30s. Solidly, which was great. But we got to get to the top 25, and we believe as a state we can do that. We're in the top 25 in science. We moved over the past 2 years to the top 25, number 25 in 4th grade math. But we are always in a relative ranking with other states. And so as other states are improving, you're consistently looking at your relative rank according to their improvement as well. And so we still have a long way to go, particularly in reading, which is why Goal 2 is here. I think you know this better than anybody. Our reading challenge is real. We have only about a third of kids reading at the proficient level according to our standards, our rigorous standards, at the end of 3rd grade, and it looks similar in 4th grade. So our goal here is to move at least 75% of our kids to reading proficiency by 2025. We reached this goal by having 5% year-over-year growth, starting from our baseline from last year. And this past year, we had a little over 3% growth. So we did not have 5% growth in the first year. We had a little over 3. So we got more work to do this year. But our goal here is to make sure every year we're growing. And 10 years later, we're going to be able to say we are either at 75% or much closer than we've ever been. Goal 3 is about ACT, and I just want to show you this. We have continued to grow our ACT. You can see back in 2013, we had a 19 composite average with fewer kids taking it. If you look at about 2017, that's starting to incorporate all kids taking it. We now have this as part of our accountability in terms of participation. More and more kids have the opportunity to take it. It's in state law that all kids at the 11th grade year are taking either the ACT or SAT. And with more kids taking it, we've actually improved our rate, which is a great story and one that is unusual because nationally ACT went backward the last 2 years and we bucked the trend. We actually moved forward in ACT. Now look at 2020. Our goal is to be at least at an average of 21 by 2020. And we are marching forward. Our new ACT state average will be released, we hope, later this fall. ACT is delayed. I know that shouldn't be a surprise for some of you, but they are doing some new standard setting around ACT like we've done as a state, and so their scores are delayed. But we hope to have that information available later this fall when they're finished. So that's the big picture of Tennessee Succeeds. There's so much here around EL, and I just want to mention a few of those and then talk about some of the success you've had in my closing comments. We are supporting English learners and ESL teachers, I think, in a more direct way than we've been able to do in the past. And that's because we've heard from you. Some of you in the field said we need additional support from the state. We need this to look different than what we've had in the past. And so as we've heard from you, we've released new items. You've most likely seen and are using the EL framework, certainly the ESL manual, the companion document to our teaching literacy in Tennessee work that is specific to how you apply that to our English learners. We're very proud of that. We had teachers involved in that development. And we want you to know, as we thought about teaching literacy and what we're doing with Read to Be Ready, EL is a great specific part of all of that work. We rolled out our ILPs to support language acquisition and development of ELs, including the FAQ I hope that you are using and seeing. We've trained over 500 teachers, specifically from the state with this trainer model. And we recently just released the LTEL guide, and I hope you have seen that as well. These are all linked here, and I'm sure Dan will make sure you get the PowerPoint slide deck if you would like to use this for any reason or use those particular links. We also saw some very historic progress in EL this year on TN Ready. And I'm going to talk about that because I was saying to somebody the other day, I was so excited I get to talk to you today. Because while we had mixed results on TN Ready across the state with many challenges that we had in the spring, and let me just be the first, if you haven't heard from anyone else from our department, we apologize for what you experienced in the spring. It was completely unnecessary for us to all go through that together. We had challenges that we are addressing. Unfortunately, that doesn't help you with what you already experienced in the spring. But the work that you did in the spring, in the fall, mattered because we saw EL progress that was second to none over the last several years. So while we were mixed, let me talk about what your students did. It was the bright spot in the data. One, our English language learners who had exited EL services actually outgrew all students. So I want you to look at this chart. So all students, and that all student growth for 3 through 5 ELA, 3 through 5 math, high school math, and US history are represented in the dark blue. You see our English learners who had exited services in the light blue. I mean, this was remarkable progress. So this is a testament to what you've done, and when students exited your services, they were stronger in terms of growth than all of our other students this past year. And we think this is going to continue because of what you're doing with our EL students. Now look at this one. This is also an exciting one. So our student groups across the board in English made growth, but look at EL. Again, it's in the light blue. Our EL students grew more in English than any other student group. They grew more than all students by a long shot, and grew more than our other student groups. So again, great news. Now let's look at this one. Literacy improvements happened across the board in 2018. So remember I told you we had about 3% growth. We were hoping for 5%. We had about 3% in those early literacy grades. But I want to show you what happened with EL. Now, you can see on here, EL is the second one from the bottom there, from where you're looking at it, the second one from the right. And you can see that EL students actually grew more between 2017 and 2018 than other groups. And this chart shows that EL students actually showed more movement across all the proficiency levels than we saw in our other student groups. So let me explain the graph. So if you look at, let's look at the first two. So while you're looking at it from your vantage point, look at the left. In 2017, you're going to see that first bar representing all of our students. The second bar is all of our students in 2018. This is specifically for our 3 through 8 English language arts students. Now, what does this represent? Well, let's look at all students for a minute in that second bar. We see that in all students in grades 3 through 8, English language arts, 5.2% of them were at the mastery level. They're sort of beyond proficient. These are the kids I like to say that could probably teach the content. They're at that highest mastery level. When you look at rigor, these are kids that are well above 21 on the ACT. If you look at the 28.7%, these are the proficient students, okay, representing all of 3 through 8 ELA. Approaching is that darker blue, 45.6, and then the below is 20.5. Now, I want you to track over to the next two bars. Those are our English learners. 2017 is represented by the third bar, 2018 by the last bar. What do you notice? Okay, one, you see slightly, very slightly larger on mastery, like what, 0.2 of a point. It's very slight. You see, though, a larger light blue, so you had more students proficient. Okay, a couple percentage points there. But what happened in the other two areas? The positive is you want those to get bigger in that last bar, and they did. You had more students approaching, less students below. Right, so this shows that we are moving kids across all those proficiency levels. We're not just getting them to proficiency, which is our goal. We're moving them, we're growing them. And we saw that in ELA in particular at a very strong rate. So we're very proud of what you're doing. We're also going to be announcing our ELPA results here as a state very soon. And we saw great growth in ELPA, so I'll go ahead and plug that. Our ELPA looks much better in terms of getting more kids to proficiency in English. And again, a testament to the work that you're doing. So I'm going to end with saying, what's our focus? Because you have been so focused on making sure more kids are ready for what's next, that we want to honor what we're doing as a state. And I want to talk briefly about how our English learners, and specifically our teachers of English learners, are actually built into our overall goals. We believe as a state that we must move forward with intensity in these three areas. because we believe all kids deserve, number one, to be reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. We believe that they deserve it. And I have said that I think literacy is one of the civil rights issues of our time. When kids are not reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade, they continue to be behind. Can kids catch up? Yes. Do we see it happen? Yes. Do kids who are furthest behind catch up? Sometimes. But our kids who are in our historically underserved student groups tend to be the kids that continue to be left behind year after year. I mean, it is an issue. All kids deserve this because it is a factor in the trajectory of where they go next. Second, we believe every kid deserves to have an effective teacher in a school led by an effective principal every year. Effective teachers are attracted to effective principals. So these two things go hand in hand. Why do teachers leave? Well, one of the main reasons is because they don't have an effective principal, or they don't feel like they have an effective principal. They don't have that growth that they hope they get with that leader. So we see that in feedback. So these go hand in hand. And then third, every child needs to be set up for success on a career path. The fastest way for kids to get out of poverty is to have a job. And so we've got to make sure all kids, particularly our kids who don't have that mentor in their life potentially that's helping them see that path forward, are getting that through our guidance and our support at school. It's even stronger when you have the parent, an adult in the child's life outside of school and the school working hand in hand to set up our kids for success on a career path. So our focus and our work is really intensely around these 3 areas. That's where you will see our focus, and we believe if we focus on these, 10 years from now, we're going to have every child growing a strong foundation in literacy, every child. Now, we have a 75% goal, but every time I'm in front of the General Assembly, they say, why do you have 75%? It should be 100%. And I said, exactly right, it should be 100%. But we know how far behind we are, and we're growing every single year. So we want every child to have a strong foundation, but we have goals along that pathway to get every child ready for literacy. 2, we believe in 10 years we're going to see all students gaining high quality, purposeful education in a meaningful, aligned set of expectations. That's where this career component comes in here. How do kids see where they're going and what those paths are? 3, we believe in 10 years, because it's already happening now, that low-performing schools are called out. We don't hide them, we don't pretend like they don't exist. We call them out, and we continuously improve with interventions that put kids back on track. We will have a new priority school list and reward school list come out late Friday after the state board meeting where they approved that list. And you're going to see a new list of priority schools. And those priority schools, interestingly enough, do shift across the state over time, because where you may have had more priority schools, those districts have stepped up and done the hard work to change the pathway for those kids. We've got to have that happening across the state. We've got to call them out, and we have to do the work to make them better. 4, this one's near and dear to my heart, that in 10 years, students need to have an effective teacher, period. We don't need to be wondering, do all kids get effective teachers? And do some kids have them and some kids don't? But if you have kids right now, you have grandkids right now, you want them to have an effective teacher every year, every class period, every subject area. Right? This should not be, we hope it happens. We should be doing everything in our power to make it happen. And that is not simple. But it has to happen for our students to have the success that we know they deserve. And 5, that the majority of our students are taking advantage of more opportunities in high school that prepare them for what's next. High school needs to be rethought at some level. Right? There are good things about it, and there are things we could improve, particularly for kids' engagement and their ability to see what they can do past that high school experience. So in conclusion, while this is what our story looks like right now, these are data from 2013-14, because we can see where kids go for several years past this date. We see 2 pie charts. 34% of kids that graduated in 2013-14 have no post-secondary degree. 39% a 4-year post-secondary degree, 24% a 2-year community college or technical, actually that's just community college, and then 3% a technical college degree. I want you to look at economically disadvantaged, which is the other pie graph. Different story. You have fewer kids that have 4-year. You have more kids that have no post-secondary. You have a similar number that have 2-year and technical degrees. But we know, look at the all graduates versus economically disadvantaged and that no post-secondary. What's the percentage point difference? What's 48 minus 34? 14% more kids that are economically disadvantaged have no post-secondary degree. That means 14% more of them are actually earning below the poverty line in terms of annual salary. It's about $10,880 annually if you don't have any post-secondary credential. By the way, you can earn a credential in high school. These are kids that have none of those credentials. So what do we think can happen by 2023, 2024, which is that 10-year story that we're on? We've had one 10-year story, we're now starting the next one. And if we can have this stability and this continued focus on the high expectations and the baseline that we set, then we believe this is what 2023, 24 can look like. 4 years has grown some for all. No post-secondary has been split in half. Look at technical college. We've improved that by about 2% more a year. We should not be anywhere close to 3%. We should have at least 13% of kids going directly into a technical college out of our high schools. And then 2-year has expanded by multiple percentage points. But the real story of this last slide is that there's only one pie chart. We can't have different stories for different kids based on their economics, based on their background, based on their language. All kids, because all kids deserve this from us, need to have that pathway that allows all of them to have success. And so this should be the story for all kids. That's the main difference between what's happening now and what we believe is absolutely possible at a minimum from 10 years from now. What I hope you will do with us on this journey is to make sure all students have options. All students are set up with that degree to see what path is in front of them, what opportunities they have, and they're set up for success, not just because we clicked, courses that they earned, but that those courses were meaningful, those experiences were exceptional, the experiences that they had to learn the language and to see what's possible for them academically, professionally, happened with you, and that you were a part of their future. We know when we do this, that we strengthen our communities across the state, and we just keep getting better. You have a role in Tennessee Succeeds. EL is a significant role in all the work that we're doing around this work for all students. Our equity work is about you. And by the way, you are the teachers who have had the most growth in this equity pathway so far. And so we're so appreciative of what you've already done. My advice to you is keep it up, because what you're doing is working. So let's keep going with what you've already started and continue to get stronger every year. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning.